Okay, what's up, everybody? Good morning. Welcome to a Hump Day edition of Morning Scone, presented by Brock, the Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, HUDCO Roofing, HUDCORoofing.com, Restored Motions, RestoredMotions.com, and ProChargeEV, Hope y'all are having a great start to your morning. Guessing by now a lot of you have probably seen the statement from the Greg Brooks family. If you have not, Greg Brooks had a brain tumor removed on Friday, which is why he did not play against Mississippi State, and which is why if you were here yesterday or heard AFR yesterday, I allude to the fact that not only would the reason Greg Brooks was missing it very likely cost him this season, but there's a real legitimate question as to whether or not he'd ever play football again. So there are obviously things that just dramatically supersede football when they come along, and that's certainly one of them. So as I often say, sometimes I'll tell you the story without telling you the story, and I think you can understand why. I think those who knew were, and I found out Saturday, by the way. I think those that knew were willing to wait and let the Greg Brooks family announce that however they wanted. What I can tell you, just to add a little detail to the story, is you might remember back in fall camp that Greg Brooks was dealing with a bout of vertigo, which was true. It was just that we now know the vertigo was onset by the tumor. So Brooks had vertigo. There was a practice where he kind of started vomiting. He was dizzy, nauseous, started vomiting, so they treated him he didn't hit his head or anything, so there was no concussion or anything like that. So they treated him for vertigo, and it got better. The symptoms subsided. He played the first 2 games, and then at halftime of the Grambling game, the symptoms returned. So that's when they said, "Hey, we're going to send you for tests." And so they sent him for tests and realized that that's where they found the tumor, and he was in surgery on Friday to have it removed. So, if you were here on AFR on Tuesday, and every time, sorry y'all, I'm trying to put my shoes on. God, I got one anyway. There's obviously the very real life concerning part of the Greg Brooks story, which is way more important than football. I mean, no one's even gonna try to argue for the importance of football when something like this transpires. So, there is the part of that matters greatly to a lot of people, which is the football part of it, and what it means for the football team, because Greg Brooks is your best defensive back. The guy's played in 50 games in his career. He in a season of transition in the secondary, that's a guy that that is your most veteran guy, was your best defensive back. A guy who was, is versatile and could play a lot of positions and all that stuff. And so now in a secondary, which has been undeniably the weakness of this team through 3 games, although, the unit looked better against Mississippi State. Losing your best player in that position group is not ideal, obviously. So You know, there, as I mentioned, there's the very real circumstance surrounding Greg Brooks and his health, and of course, everybody wants him to be healthy and first and foremost, and that's what matters the most. But there is also the part of it about football, which is, how does LSU start to replace Greg Brooks? So that's something that on Saturday against Mississippi State, we saw freshman Ryan Yates play a lot of safety. And I think what their best lineup is probably, I think Major Burns, it's pretty clear, is much better coming downhill, helping in run support than he is back in coverage. And I feel like Ryan Yates is better in coverage. So, there were times where they went dime, which is, of course, 6 defensive backs. And Yates was the free safety in dime, and they played Major Burns closer to the line. So you're getting everybody in situations that probably suit them best. So anyway, that's the latest. So kind of been told on Saturday what was up with Greg Brooks, and everybody's praying for and hoping for the best, for a speedy recovery, and I think they're running a biopsy. Well, I don't know how much that statement said, so I don't know how much I should say or shouldn't say, but I know the sincere hope is, let me read the statement. Greg was diagnosed with a large brain tumor, required emergency surgery. Doctors successfully performed procedure Friday to remove the mass. We're waiting okay, they did say we're waiting biopsy results. Okay. So the question is, if was the tumor benign, which that's the sincere hope. Anyway. Okay. All right, let's say some good mornings here, see what y'all got. Brad David, good morning. If the NFL draft was today, what round would Jaden be drafted in? So I think the draft feedback he got was he was a day 2 or early day 3 pick. So you're talking rounds, 2, 3, 4, somewhere in there. And I think, he was coming back hoping to push himself into round 1. The really tough part about that is it's such a heavy quarterback draft class with Caleb Williams and Drake May and Michael Penix, and Bo Nix has turned himself into a prospect, and it's a really, really good draft class. So he may be drafted lower than what his draft grade is, just because where are quarterback needy teams picking? Scooter rushing, Trivia Carter, Devin Johnson. Matt, did you hear that last Wednesday the defense asked for full contact practice, said it helped them prepare for MSU? I did. And I think it's a good thing. It's a good sign. I also think, Sean Salisbury made this point on AFR yesterday, and I think it's a good point. He said one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of the issues with offensive line play, we're talking about the Saints, but he said, look, it's not just the Saints, it's across the NFL, is there's no contact in practice, and the starters don't play preseason games. So where you have 5 guys that have to play as one, and they lack continuity and reps together, and they have to get out there real speed against guys like Micah Parsons or Arden Key or whoever, the offensive line is going to be slower to gel. So it was an interesting point. So yeah, I think that's relevant for an offensive line. To your point, I think it's relevant for defenses who are trying to tackle. When you don't tackle, you don't practice tackling, and then you have to go tackle in a real game. It's it's different. Tim Gotro, Brett Guidry, Wendell Norman, Janet, good morning. Jesse Brown, Spurge, good morning. Joey Vincent, what's going on? Jesse said, looks like Miller is a go for Sunday. So we'll get the first injury report today for Sunday. And we'll see, what they say about Kendre Miller. But yeah, I mean, considering he was limited late in the week, last week, and actually worked out on the field before the game and thought they might give it a go. I would suspect he'd be a go, and the other evidence is sort of, if he wasn't ready, they would be adding a back. They'd be signing. They may do that anyway if Jamal Williams isn't good to go, but you would most certainly have to add somebody. Jerry DeLucky, good morning. Bart St. Germain, Hunter Eilers, good morning. Bill Schmid, Trey Fisher, Kelly Gross, good morning, y'all. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Yeah, all the kind words for Greg, for sure. Christian Myers, morning, Matt. Got a good belly laugh yesterday listening to the Coach O piece. Yeah. Zed Ogeron did I don't know if y'all saw it, but, and I mean, I know how this all transpired because Panamsky reached out to me and connected me with the folks at Roback, so Derek is close to some of the people at Roback, which is a sort of like athletic performance wear, if you haven't seen, or they have an athletic performance line. Anyway, so they launched, Roback did their officially licensed college line. So they have like officially licensed LSU gear. And so they wanted to promote it. So Panamsky connected me with the Roback folks to kind of help them promote their LSU line, which is by the way, they have the code LSU20 if you're interested in any of the Roback gear. Code LSU20 gets you 20% off. Awesome stuff, by the way, like legit, maybe the most comfortable, active gear polo that I've ever worn. Sorry. And Panamsky's the one who connected him with Ogeron to do the promotion, and it was like he's the interim CEO. Like the CEO's going on maternity leave, so Ed's the interim CEO. And it's really, really well done. I looked yesterday when we played the video on AFR, and it was they were at it was at 1.4 million views yesterday, just on Twitter. Hang on, let's see. Right now it's at, okay, so it's still at 1.4 million. That's just Twitter too. So, but yes, it was very, very well done. Rick Manuel, good morning. Josh DeVilliers, Matt, good morning. 1, do you drink black coffee? Yeah, yes, Mike, I'm drinking black coffee. 2, do you think Whit Weeks should be starting? He's really good. Yeah. And, I think what Brian Kelly was pretty clear that the linchpin there is Greg Penn. 6'2", 235. He is your prototypical, inside backer. So you start Greg Penn and then you run rotations off of him, depending on what looks you want. So that could be Weeks or Spates. And I don't know that it necessarily matters who really the starter is. It's who's playing situational defensive snaps and where and what looks, right? So if you go to nickel and you take a linebacker off the field, well, which linebacker's coming off the field? Sounds like it's not Greg Penn. If you go to dime and you have 6 defensive backs, and then maybe 3 down linemen and 2 linebackers. One of the things that we saw when they went dime on Saturday was they would move Major Burns into the box. They would bring Yates on at free safety, and they took Savion Jones off the field and put Sean Womack in at left end. Now that's usually the big end. Remember, Savion Jones has gone up to 285. He's huge. Deshaun Womack is decidedly lighter. And one of the things I'll tell you that was noticeable at Savion Jones but about Deshaun Womack during fall camp was man, when those big offensive linemen got their hands on him, got into his pads, he got pushed around just because he's light. But I heard the best comp for him. It was when B.J. Ojulari was a freshman. He was light and was not very good in run support, but he was athletic. And it was like, hey man, use your athleticism, get up the field and rush the passer. I think that's what they're going to do with Deshaun Womack. I think you're going to see third down situations where they put speed rushers on the field, where you've got Braden Swinson, Harold Perkins, Deshaun Womack, Major Burns in the box. You just got a lot of speed on the field. So, where are we? Brant Robinson, Arkansas always plays us tough. Lately been decided by a touchdown or less. Do you feel more optimistic this year? I do, Brant, and the reason, and this is not a reaction to what happened against Mississippi State or Arkansas losing to BYU in any way. I've always said this about this game. The Arkansas game forever has been, emotionally, has benefited Arkansas. Arkansas has always cared more about this game as a rivalry game than LSU has, and where it fell on the calendar always benefited Arkansas. The Friday after Thanksgiving, Arkansas got hyped for that. It was like their thing, their tradition. They got to play LSU Friday after Thanksgiving, 1:30, CBS. It was a thing. And LSU always resented it. Hated the Friday thing, hated the day game thing, just hated it. It was never like everybody hated it. And, the silly boot and all that stuff. Well, Arkansas got up for it and LSU never did. We got to a point where it's like, look, I don't care if you love or hate this. You better show up ready to play, because it's the old, the line from Rocky IV. He don't know it's a show. He thinks it's a damn fight. When Apollo was fighting the Russian. So, you better show up ready to play. Well, LSU finally got their wish. They moved that game off of the Friday after Thanksgiving, but then they moved it to the week after Bama. So no matter what, LSU was always going to be sky high for Bama and then have a letdown against Arkansas. It's just, you can't be sky high 2 weeks in a row. It's not to say you can't play well, but if you're going to go all in for a game and give a game your undivided attention, you know who's coming up on the schedule, and it's Alabama. The next week you're going to have a low. Look at Texas this last week. Texas beat Bama, then they go play Wyoming. They're in like a 10-10 ball game in the third quarter. It's human nature. So, excuse me. So, so the fact that it was always after Bama benefited Arkansas. Now you put that game in September when LSU's got fresh legs and you are unmoved by the emotion. It's not sandwiched around a holiday weekend or the week after Bama. It's just sitting there in September. It's just another game. It's the week after Mississippi State. All right, it's Arkansas. Okay. I think it's absolutely one of those games where the emotional pendulum swings toward LSU in this game for sure. Lowell Cormier, good morning from Salt Lake. Okay. Jerry DeLucky, great interviews yesterday. Thank you, Jerry. Appreciate that. It's Sean Salisbury yesterday was great. And then Evan, I don't know if y'all heard Evan Cohen, but he was really good too. He's the one of the co-hosts. He's the lead on Unsportsmanlike. It's the new national ESPN radio morning show with Evan Cohen, Michelle Smallman, and Chris Canty. The ESPN national radio lineup has just had major overhauls. There was a time where you had Mike and Mike and Cowherd and SVP and Rosillo. You had a great lineup. And slowly, one by one, the lineup got picked apart. Cowherd left for Fox. They brought in Levitard, who was a love-or-hate deal, but Levitard's numbers were fantastic. They obviously had their falling out. Levitard left, and Mike, went their separate ways, and it's just been a turnstile. But I like what they did with the morning show. It's a breath of fresh air. It sounds like an actual radio show as opposed to media people on the radio doing the same show everyone else does, where it's just contentious arguing and silly, mundane lists and things like that. So anyway, give it a shot. Nathan McCartney, John Hilburn, Jim Arsenault, Tom Grandig, good morning. Glad to see y'all. Landon Weber, good morning. Tiger Diver, any update on Rocket Sanders from Arkansas? So, yes. So, by the way, this morning, Wednesday, is the SC Coaches Teleconference. So, both Brian Kelly and Sam Pittman will be on the teleconference. And no doubt Sam Pittman will be asked about Rocket Sanders for an update. But so for those who don't know, Raheem Sanders, a.k.a. Rocket Sanders, is Arkansas's running back, and he's an awesome player. And he's missed the last 2 games. He's had swelling in his knee. And they were holding him out, essentially hoping to have him ready to go for this game against LSU. And Sam Pittman said on Monday that, as of now, it's a no, but they were going to try to get him some work this week and see if they get him ready to go for Saturday. So what he's dealing with is pretty serious. Jay Geiger, Damon Gilmore, good morning. Dalton Barnett, morning, Maddie. Let's see, hate that for Greg. Reminds me of the Honey Badger so much. Hope he sticks around, can motivate the guys. Jay Benoit, good morning. Podcast has been great. Saw the news on Greg Brooks. Pray for God's healing. Yeah, man, if y'all would, please check out the podcast. It's, of course, LSU Daily. However you get your podcast, just search LSU Daily. Subscribe up on your favorite podcast app. Really appreciate it. So, a couple more minutes here, y'all. As always, shout out to Brock, Baton Rouge Orthopedic Clinic, Hudco Roofing. You need an orthopedics, go to Brock. Need a roof? Give a shout out Hudco, HudcoRoofing.com. Reed Rule, awful to hear about Greg Brooks, hoping for a full recovery moving forward, who most likely fills that spot. Yeah. So what they did on Saturday, you're going to see most likely Sage Ryan in the nickel, and Andre Sam and Major Burns are your safeties. And then I mentioned what they did when they had alternate looks like the dime packages. Ryan Yates, the freshman, went on the field. So Yates went to free, Major Burns kicked down into the box. So that's probably what your rotation looks like. Matt Plavidal, good morning. Irfan Sayad, good morning. Armani Hayes, Tony Dolby, Jason H, good morning, y'all. Jonathan Thomas, Matt, how good is Florida State? They looked amazing against LSU, struggled against Boston College. Will they run the table in the ACC? Huge one this weekend, Jonathan. We'll learn a lot about Florida State. They go to Clemson this week. I think Florida State is a really good team. I think emotional letdown this week against Boston College, or on the road against the Boston College team that was sky high. BC every year does their red bandana game in honor of Wells Crowder, who was a 9/11 hero. And so their red bandana day is always a huge emotional day. And so Florida State took Boston College's best swing on Saturday. Janet should have pulled for the Rebels or the Tide. I never pull for Alabama. So I would love to see Ole Miss beat Alabama. Ole Miss, because I have no doubt Ole Miss is going to lose games. I would love to see Alabama take another L in the SEC. Cliff Nelson, good morning. Armani Hayes, for the most part, is that a career-ending thing? Even when he gets it removed, will he be able to play with all the hard contact anymore? Yes, Armani, that's the thing that I was talking about yesterday. You're going to move forward this year with the understanding that you're not going to have Greg Brooks this year, and it's something that they hope isn't career-ending, that he's able to play again. It's not so much about the hard contact. It's more about when you have brain surgery, your equilibrium could be off, or are you ever really the same? I mean, I hate to say that out loud, but that's sort of one of the concerns and the things that you consider when you're talking about brain surgery. So all that is ancillary relative to his, just the human part of that. So, all right, guys. Matt, my favorite ESPN radio show was Dan Patrick with Rob Dibble. That was really good. Yeah, the old days of ESPN radio, man, when you had Dan Patrick show, and when Kornheiser was on the daily lineup on radio, Mike and Mike, of course, yeah, it was great. Okay, y'all, it's 8 a.m. I got to go, got to get Drew up and get him out to school. So, hey, thank y'all so much for watching. If you're new there on the YouTube channel, please subscribe up to the channel. Please smash the like button as well if you would. Facebook, please like the Matt Scone page, share the post. We appreciate y'all greatly. Okay, y'all have an awesome day. Again, LSU Daily is already live on your favorite podcast app, and AFR3. Okay, guys, see you. Peace.